This is Real Estate 411, and we are live here for you. This is our final segment. We're going to speak to you a little bit more today about homes and donating real estate and the reasons why people may have to do so. How do you keep water at bay? Tips for protecting your home. There's no need to acquire an ark yet, but water certainly has become a bigger menace in many parts of the country. Now, we live in a higher water table here in Michigan. If you know anything about aquifers and water tables, that's the height of the water levels that's below the Earth's surface, and that's usually a factor of the underground water tables, and that has to do with people being able to tap into a well or not have you at certain depths. And the water tables in Michigan fluctuate, and this is the time of the year, April showers, where a lot of waters show the signs of the winter. And this is a time where people start panicking because when they see water, they want it taken care of. And water is a definite determining factor of deterioration with homes. And a lot of times people call us about donating real estate or calling us to fix their homes have to do with things that water has caused in regards to those homes being damaged. Water damage is immense, especially in older properties that don't have secure foundations, and the foundations allow the water to rise within the water table and soak not only the foundation, rise up in the basement cavities or lower levels, and then when the wood hits the water, it's an absorbent. So wood is like a sponge and it soaks it up. So that's very important to remember that, water is something that causes many, many problems, and a lot of people just kind of don't really think about all of the reasons why they have to understand how to keep the water at bay. You need to block it from the entry points of your home. And when you think about that, what part of the house really is in touch with water before anything else? The roof. Because when it rains, that's the first point of the house that the water is felt by. So this is the time right now, if you're interested in having a roofing inspection, to call us at 877 Annette. Or you can contact Michigan Revitalization at 248-988-8408. Now, we inspect properties, and we also waterproof properties. We do roofs, we do additions, remodeling, and we build new homes. So right now I'm speaking to you to let you know that we have great incentives right now for having roofs installed during this time of the year. It's a 1 to 2 day process maximum, up to 50 square roof. And if you make a call to Michigan Revitalization, again, the number is 248-988-8408, you will receive a call back, and we would be happy to come out there and give you a free estimate and proposal for your home's needs. So the roofing reasons of importance are high because that's the first line of defense from water coming into a home. And if you don't have the correct gutters and downspouts, maybe if they're too narrow or they're not cleaned often enough, that'll cause a lot of problems with backup. And then when the water backs up in the gutters, then it can get underneath the shingles, underneath the front fascia, get into the overhangs and cause problems for you there. Now, windows and doors have an issue with water infiltrating around their seams if not caulked properly. And of course, foundations and basement floors and the walls in the basement, as we explained, with improper foundation structures and weak foundations like old block, allow a lot more water to infiltrate that block cavity, because block and cement as well is a porous material. So it's important to maybe put a second line of defense in when it comes to trying to redirect the water around your home. Installing a sump pump is a great idea. That's usually the right arm of any basement's waterproofing system. There's typical phrases like a French drain, which has been used for years, but we really don't incorporate that type of system here in many homes in Michigan. But if you want a French drain, that's not a problem. We can install them as well, because some of the older properties, like in Grosse Pointe, have them, which is basically a trough of 2 to 4 inches that's recessed below the basement floor from the foundation wall, and the water runs around the interior perimeter and collects in bleeders and then is discarded and discharged through sump pumps or other means. So when it comes to protecting your home from water, make sure that you buy the right insurance. The typical insurance policy averages about $38 from 2008 to 2012 for the worst case scenario. So it's really not that expensive for a policy per month to protect yourself from any possible large costs in the future from water damage. And of course, if water does come in, please act fast, because it comes in fast, and you want to make sure that you try to redirect it as soon as possible. So if you see something happening, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Don't think that a phone call costs you money. You need to get an education first about what your options are. So we'd be happy to talk to you here at Real Estate 411. And the Michigan Revitalization contact number again is 248-988-8408. And that is our residential construction firm here at Real Estate 411.
It's a great topic that you're talking about today, Paul, because obviously the snow is either has melt or is in the process of melting. The paths where you see snow still are usually the ones that are underneath shade trees and things like that. And so all it's going to take are those wonderful, April showers, which I'm sure are right around the corner. And all of a sudden they're going to be in their basement one day and they're going to hear this trickle and say, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Because that's kind of what ends up happening is the crack that may have been fine all of a sudden now isn't okay, and so water's going to start showing up, and it's a huge issue if you let it go. A lot of times it can be fixed fairly quickly if you're preventative, correct?
Yes, looking out the windows here of our studio from the Fisher Building in downtown Detroit and seeing the beautiful structures of the buildings near us. Detroit has had such a refacing over the years of the fronts and faces of the buildings because of deterioration and the stonework falling apart. But then some of the buildings, because of the way they were constructed, are very intact. And, they have gargoyles above the top arcs of the windows, like the Fisher Building here. And then the quality of the build is incredible. But the maintenance that is needed for these buildings sometimes is huge if they're not sealed correctly. A lot of times the older buildings were built very, very well with the steel L-beams across the windows, and there really isn't a leakage issue because you can see they recess the windows in from the outside wall of the foundation. But some of the buildings are not constructed that way, and we do receive calls for taking care of sealing up and caulking and taking care of water infiltration around commercial properties, and those are big contracts too. We had some contracts a few years ago with the Marriott hotel chain, and we were basically recaulking all of their Marriott chains because they all leaked all the glass that met the aluminum sills and seals were leaking. So that was a big deal. So that was a problem with the construction aspect of when those things were built, but you can always fix things after they're done, even if they're done wrong.
Sure.